Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 14.2b. I've entitled this video, People, Potatoes, and Prejudice. This video is going to cover pages 384 to 386. The growth of cities. Industrialization had a big impact on cities. Factories were usually in urban areas. Because factories drew workers, northern cities grew in size in the early 1800s. Urban populations grow. Some major cities developed between 1820 and 1840 for Midwestern villages located along rivers. St. Louis sits on the banks of the Mississippi River just south of where that river meets the Illinois and Missouri rivers. By the mid-1800s, steamboats from north and south lined up along the docks of St. Louis. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Louisville also profited from their locations on waterways. These cities became centers of trade that linked Midwest farmers with cities of the Northeast. Question number 1. Why were northern cities growing in size in the early 1800s? Because factories were located in the northern cities, and factories drew workers. The workers coming in from other countries that were immigrants, they wanted to be paid, and where those jobs were in the big cities where the factories were. Here we see a picture of America's population centers in 1820. Notice the big dots down here. The bigger the dot, the more people. So notice many of our biggest cities at that time were located on the East Coast, which does make sense. There were a couple smaller growing cities in Chicago and St. Louis, but basically New Orleans is the biggest one on this side of the Appalachians. But notice a lot of these cities were starting to grow. That's in 1820. And then in 1860, notice the boom. In 1860, in just 40 years, you have major population centers developing on the East Coast and also more so in the Midwest, and starting to see more and more cities getting bigger and bigger by 1860. And here we see it more in a graph situation here where we see New York City. And by the way, New York City has been our biggest city since 1820, our largest city. Here is the 10 biggest cities at that time. Notice most of them are located in the north. You have New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Boston, not New Orleans or Charleston, but then you have Northern Liberties, Southwark, Washington, D.C., and Salem. So most of our biggest cities are in the north at that time. By 1830, you can start to see the cities are growing. Definitely New York City is jumping above all the other ones. Here's 1840. Now at this point, New York has made it to over 300,000 people. 1850, New York City has eclipsed the 500,000 people mark. And by 1860, it's at 800,000 plus people. Increased immigration. Between the years 1840 and 1860, immigration to the United States grew sharply. The greatest number of immigrants came from Ireland. A plant disease, the potato blight, destroyed most of the Irish food supply in the 1840s. The people of Ireland faced famine, an extreme shortage of food. More than 1 million people died during what was called the Great Irish Famine. Another 1.5 million Irish immigrants, people who leave their home to move elsewhere, left for the United States between 1846 and 1860. Question 2. What country sent the greatest number of immigrants to the United States between 1840 to 1860? Ireland. Question 3. What did a potato blight do to Ireland in the 1840s? Well, it destroyed most of their food supply. At that time, Ireland depended on the potato, and that famine would wreck their food supply. Question 4, what is a famine? A famine is an extreme shortage of food. Question 5, what happened during the Great Irish Famine? It killed more than 1 million people, and it forced another 1.5 million to leave Ireland and come to the United States, which is the answer to number 6. What did 1.5 million Irish people do in that time period? They left for the United States. The second largest group of immigrants in the United States between 1820 and 1860 came from Germany. Some sought work and opportunity. Others fled to escape political problems at home. Question number 7. What European country was second behind Ireland for sending people to America between that time period? Germany. Question 8. What were some reasons why Germans came to America between 1820 to 1860? Well, some were looking for work, some were looking for opportunities, other opportunities such as maybe land, and others were fleeing to escape political problems in Germany. Immigration's impact. European immigrants brought languages, customs, religions, and traditions to their new country. Some of their ways of living changed American culture. And you can see some have called the immigration flow to our country, America was the melting pot, and some have seen that as a way to think about our immigration to our country. While more recently, some are looking at it not as necessarily a melting pot, but as a salad bowl, where you have the variety of flavors, but they all don't have to blend as much as they work together to make the salad better. So some people tend to go with the melting pot. Others believe it's more like a salad bowl. But question 9, what were some of the things that European immigrants brought to the United States? They brought their languages, their customs, their religions, and their traditions. Immigrants face prejudice. In the 1830s and 1840s, some people began to resist immigration. They were known as nativist. Nativists believed that immigration threatened the future of, quote, native, American-born citizens. They often blamed immigrants for problems in society. Some nativists accused immigrants of taking jobs from, quote, real Americans and were angry that immigrants would work for lower wages. Others accused immigrants of bringing crime and disease to United States cities. I always find it ironic that nativists blame immigrants when we are a whole country of immigrants. That always just makes me it just blows my mind. They forget their history, which is what is being shown in this political cartoon right here. These people that are saying, no, don't come in, forget that they had once been immigrants themselves. That is why nativists, to me, are very narrow-minded. Question 10, what did nativists believe during that time period? They believed that immigration was not helping America, but it was hurting America. Ironically, they forget that they too were immigrants. Question 11, what were some of the beliefs that nativists had during that time period about immigrants? Well, number one, they blamed immigrants for the problems in society. Well, there were problems in our society before immigrants showed up. There were problems in our society when immigrants showed up. Secondly, natives accused Americans of taking jobs from, quote, real Americans. The real answer to that is these immigrants were willing to work jobs that these other Americans didn't want to work. Number three, they were angry that immigrants would work for lower wages. Well, that's capitalism. So we claim to be a capitalistic society. So if other people are willing to work for lower wages than you, that's on you, not on them. And lastly, they accused immigrants of bringing crime and disease to United States cities. Well, that's true. Immigrants did bring some crime and disease, but Americans already living here were also committing crimes and had diseases of our own. So all of those arguments are really quite flimsy in the big picture. The Know Nothing Party. In 1849, nativists formed a new political party. Because party members often answered questions about their group with the statement, I know nothing, the party became known as the Know Nothing Party. The Know Nothings called for stricter citizenship laws. In 1854, the Know Nothings became known as the American Party, ironically. Primary source, Americans must rule America, and to this end, native-born citizens should be selected for all state, federal, and municipal offices of government employment in preferences to all others. That was their platform. Yikes. Question number 12. What was the main goal of the Know Nothing Party? They were asking for stricter citizenship laws. And question 13. What ironic name did the Know Nothing Party eventually become known as? The American Party. And it would not last very long. Shocking. Thank you so much for watching. Before we go, I have this one. I would love for nativists to think about this one. Immigrants threatening your way of life? That must be tough. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.